Coming up now in your spoiler-free wrestling news rundown, Becky Lynch has commented on the allegations against Vince McMahon. We've got an update on Jack Perry's status with AEW. And also, Sammy Guevara has issued a statement while currently suspended from AEW. All that and more coming up now. Becky Lynch has commented on the allegations against Vince McMahon. Lynch has been doing a lot of press as of late. She's promoting her book titled Becky Lynch, The Man, Not Your Average Girl. And it's going to be released on March 26th, so coming up this week. She did an interview with the Irish Independent, and in the Irish Independent article, they mentioned that Lynch pays what they referred to as a guarded tribute to the intimidating WWE founder. Now, the book went to press before details from the Janelle Grant lawsuit were made public. Lynch was asked about the most recent allegations against Vince McMahon, and here are some quotes about what she had to say about him. Lynch said, "I don't know that person, you know what I mean? That's been hard for me. We didn't always see eye to eye, but especially in my last run with him there, and when I told him I was pregnant, he was so good to me. Apart from the run-ins, but you have run-ins in every relationship, especially at that level. I only ever had a wonderful experience in WWE with Vince for the most part. So it's very hard to reconcile that somebody else didn't have that experience and that other women didn't have that experience, especially when I had him to thank for my dream, for my husband, for my daughter, for the life that I have now. It's hard to see those two different people in my head, and trying to merge them as one becomes very difficult. You're reading these horrific allegations, but about somebody that you look up to as very much almost like a father figure. So you have to listen to these things, and that becomes very difficult because you've had no negative experience, and you want everybody to have the experience that you've had, because I would always love my interactions with him. And that becomes very, very difficult, especially as a woman who has been so driven in changing the way that women are treated in wrestling and making sure that it is a safe space, that we are seen as athletes, that we are taken seriously, that we are appreciated for our minds, for our body of work, and for what we do in the ring. And of course, Lynch's comments follow what Ronda Rousey had said in the media recently, as Ronda Rousey is promoting a book which comes out in early April as well. Kind of interesting that we have both Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey releasing memoirs within a couple of weeks of each other. But what Lynch is saying here is very similar to what we've heard people such as Mick Foley say. You have to reconcile that a person who played a large role in your success is also a monster who has caused trauma and significant harm to others. It seems like a very difficult thing that Becky Lynch has had to reconcile. Same with Mick Foley, same with Bret Hart, and many others who have commented on this. An update is available regarding Jack Perry's status with AEW. He has not performed for the promotion since All In at Wembley Stadium and the backstage altercation he had with CM Punk at the event. However, he has been wrestling in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He took part in the New Japan Cup Tour. He has joined the House of Torture in that promotion as well. So an article in the Wrestling Observer newsletter by Dave Meltzer came out on Friday, and it had the following to say about Jack Perry. It said, regarding Jack Perry, who has now been gone for 7 months since the incident with CM Punk at Wembley Stadium, and people thinking he's been fired. He's still under contract and obviously is working for New Japan. He continues, Tony Khan has never answered any questions regarding Perry. The way we've heard it was that he was sent home after Wembley and never heard back from Khan. He apologized, kept texting him about he never meant to cause any trouble and was sorry. He did hear from the company through lawyers. Then they talked and he apologized to Khan, but he still hasn't been brought back. What they are doing now in Japan is storyline leading to an eventual return. However, Jack Perry then reached out to Brian Alvarez to clarify a few things that were in this report. So this is up at f4wonline.com. And it reads, Jack Perry both disputes the claim that he continually apologized or asked for forgiveness in the months following his backstage fight with CM Punk at last August's AEW All In, or that there are any current plans for an AEW return. According to Perry, he didn't hear from AEW head Tony Khan for 2 months following All In at London's Wembley Stadium. Perry said he never texted to say he was sorry and told Khan's lawyers he would not initiate first contact. Khan finally set up an in-person meeting before Full Gear in Los Angeles where they discussed plans to bring him back last December. However, after Punk returned to WWE at Survivor Series, those plans were scrapped. Perry, who had wanted to work Wrestle Kingdom but was unable to for logistical reasons, then worked with Rocky Romero and Khan to set up his current NJPW run. At this point, Perry is still under AEW contract. He says he asked for a release but was denied, but there are still no plans to bring him back. He hasn't talked to Khan in months, nor cleared anything he has done in storyline for New Japan Pro Wrestling, like him tearing up the AEW contract or him using the term scapegoat. So it sounds like there's a real conflict between Jack Perry and Tony Khan. So what comes next for Jack Perry? He's going to be on that Windy City Riot show in Chicago, in CM Punk's hometown. So it should be an interesting response to Perry, interesting reception to Perry in that building. But we'll see if that eventually leads to him returning to AEW. Speaking of wrestlers who have been suspended by AEW, Sammy Guevara is currently on his second suspension from the promotion. So he was suspended on February 14th as a result of not following concussion protocol in his match with Jeff Hardy. So Guevara had attempted a shooting star press, and his knee collided with Jeff Hardy's face. Hardy ended up being okay. He suffered a broken nose, but he was said not to have gotten a concussion from it. However, Guevara continued the match, gave Hardy his finisher, and then pinned him. And there was it sounds almost like there was a miscommunication. Like he was told to go to the finish, and they meant pin him right now. And he thought that meant go to what your planned finish had been for the match. But regardless, Guevara has been suspended. So he wrote a text message that appeared on the screen at the end of his most recent vlog. And he didn't refer to the suspension directly, but he wrote, "Thanks for watching. And to the people who support me, whether it be from the beginning or in the middle, or maybe this is your first video you've watched of mine, I just wanted to say thank you. I understand that I am a person who has made mistakes, but I am also a person who has tried to be better. Roll with the punches is a saying that I truly understand now at 30 years old. Life will throw a lot at you. But it is how you deal with those adversities that make you who you are. I know who I am, and I know what I'm going after. See you at the top." Also, the Motor City Machine Guns look to have finished up with TNA Wrestling. This is being reported by both Fightful and PW Insider. So TNA held some TV tapings inside the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia over the weekend, and that was said to be their last while under contract with TNA Wrestling, although it's being reported that the door is open for a possible return down the road, but they are said to be free agents as of April 1st. Alex Coughlin has retired from wrestling. All we know about it is that he posted to X, "Yeah, I'm retired and it sucks now. Leave me the F alone." Of course, he then added, "Actually, I have some merch and gear to sell, so don't F off just yet." So it's not clear what has led to Coughlin having to retire from the ring at such a young age. Sounds like it could be injury related. We are just going to have to wait until we know more. But for right now, it looks like Alex Coughlin's wrestling career has come to an end. We've got a little bit of time left in this video, so I wanted to do something I've been trying to do for a while, where we look at what segments this week did really well in the television ratings and what did not. So in almost all cases here, my source for these ratings is WrestleNomics. And so just real quickly, let's go over any segments that caused a big spike in ratings and any segments that caused whatever is the opposite of a spike in ratings. So starting with WWE Raw, there were multiple segments that caused a noticeable spike in ratings. There wasn't really anything that did worse than Raw normally does. Well, there was kind of one thing. causing a big spike in ratings from 9 o'clock to 9:15 p.m. Doing better than Raw normally does in that quarter hour was the Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman live promo. It did 1.96 million viewers and a 0.64 in the 18 to 49 demo, and that was up big from the segment before it. There was a bit of a decrease at around 9:45 p.m. That was during the Awesome Truth versus Indu Share match. It was down a little bit in comparison to the rest of the show, not so much to how the show normally does, because they did a really good rating this week. Also very big was the Seth Rollins Drew McIntyre live promo. That did very well in the ratings, a noticeable spike. And then the main event, the last woman standing match between Becky Lynch and Nia Jax, that did a little bit better in the ratings than the Raw main event segment normally does. Moving on to NXT. NXT was down pretty much across the board this week. There wasn't anything that sticks out to me as having done particularly well or particularly bad. Now, AEW had an interesting week in the ratings because Dynamite and Rampage aired live back to back. These were the shows in Toronto that I was at. And you almost have to kind of wonder if this was maybe, obviously this was being done because of coverage of the NCAA tournament on Saturday night, but you also have to kind of wonder if maybe this was a bit of a trial for how would a 3-hour live block of programming go for AEW Dynamite. And so the ratings pattern for most of the show was pretty normal, maybe a slight decrease for the end of the Chris Jericho versus Hook match, but that's about it. But where the ratings really increased were for Rampage, because you get to the main event between Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. And that main event did pretty well, pretty much the same as most AEW main events does. But then that led into Rampage. And because Rampage's ratings are much lower than AEW Dynamite are, it caused a big spike for the segment, the post-match segment of Adam Copeland and Christian. And then it just kind of started to fall off from there. It went into more of a Rampage ratings. Well, a little bit better than Rampage normally does. So in terms of would these ratings send the message that you could do a 3-hour block of live programming? Probably. It shows you're going to do better with 3 hours of live programming than you are with 2 hours of Dynamite and then Rampage on Friday night. So you never know. This could lead to Dynamite becoming 3 hours. All right, finally, we will do some of the lineups that have been announced here. So Raw on Monday is from the Allstate Arena in Chicago. Of course, this is featuring CM Punk's big return to Chicago. At last check, they had just under 15,000 tickets sold to the show, so this is going to be a big deal. They've got lined up Jey Uso versus Shinsuke Nakamura, Sami Zayn versus Bronson Reed, Andrade will take on Ivar, Ivy Nile will take on Candice LeRae, and Ricochet will take on JD McDonough. But the big featured segment on this show will be what CM Punk has to say. And that's going to do it for this video, everyone. Don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, all the positive buttons, and we'll see you again next video.